Alright, so advantages, right? Now I have put very contextual as an advantage, right? I'll explain why. It helps explain and solve or explore problems that matters to certain people. For example, let's take the hospice, right? The work that you're doing is going to help the people in that context, and you're looking at that problem not just to generalize from what happens there, but actually solve a problem in that organization, right? So you're trying to provide context-specific knowledge, right? In that kind of situation, case studies are a good advantage. You're just not bringing in some statistics from everywhere or some generalizations and saying, okay, so I've read this model has been proven here, there, you should apply this. You're actually looking at the context of it, right? And you're coming up with context-specific solutions, right? So that's one advantage that people talk about, right? And the other thing is only a very few techniques like this or research methods can be done in both qualitative and quantitative ways, right? If you want to run, now for example, in my research we do something called problem latency test, right? Very simple. I keep two things, let's say problem and solution, right? I give you 5 minutes to solve. Okay, let's say problem solution. I don't think you can see it. I give you 5 minutes to solve, to get from here to here, right? Or some amount of time. Usually I give one group a certain time, one group no time, right? So essentially they do it, I time them. I don't know which time, I don't give them a limit, right? Then I check, I give them a different model. So one guy has to go through one system, the other guy has to go through another system, the other guy has to go through another system, right? Then I'm just going to measure how fast each gets to at the end of that system of thinking. For example, HR policies, right? You could have a set of policies or set of organization structures, structure A, structure B, structure C. You put one thing in there, you put one thing in there, you put another thing in there, you just measure which one is the fastest. That's called looking at problem latency. How fast does it take to come to a solution? That's it, right? That's a basic measurement that some case studies do, right? On the other hand, you can do a qualitative kind of approach, which most people prefer, right? Because you can have interviews, have discussions, extract information, understand feelings of people, which is something very important as well, which I think some statistics miss and things like that. So the good thing about a case study approach is that there's a smorgasbord. I like that word, right? I learned it very recently. Smorgasbord of or a plethora of things that you can actually use to run a case study with, right? That's an advantage. You can use numbers, you can use your qualitative methods, sometimes you can even combine them, right? So that's a very good advantage. And also it helps examine effectiveness of theoretical concepts, right? Which means, now let's say you come up with some conceptual idea in your research, right? Or whatever the work you do, you come up with some conceptual ideas. And you want to see if these ideas actually work, right? And you don't have, access to large grants or something like that. What you want to do is you want to see, okay, if I take in this concept and apply it in a small sample, how will it work, right? Case study. You take the modeling, you go to a situation where it's required. You apply your concepts in one kind of, in some context, and to see if it's effective, right? And in countries like England, usually people are only interested if it works, right? So if it doesn't work, no one cares, right? But in Germany and in most other European countries, they would care even if it doesn't work. At least they know now that doesn't work, right? But I know for a fact, like when you try to get published, it's all about the things that work, at least in England, right? So it's really effective if you want to try one of your concepts in an organization or in a context, right? You take your concepts, apply it, and then you can evaluate it in any way you like, right? So these are some of the key things that you can call as advantages when it comes to case study. Now, disadvantages, right? Now here, this is where the critical stuff comes in. One of the main disadvantages that people talk about when it comes to case studies is the lack of generalizability, right? Which means you do your thing in Finland, you do your thing in Huddersfield, in Czech Republic, right? How do you compare these things? Now, SHARPEN has a very good apparatus of doing that, and the way we have set it up and everything like that. But for example, and if you haven't done it in the same way, because when I say done it in the same way, it's not just going, everyone goes to a company and everyone hugs it out and writes some stuff. There has to be some kind of rigor of doing it, right? The method of data collection, the method of data evaluation, there has to be some correspondence between the way it's being done, right? Otherwise, you might have come to conclusions through, various measurements and things like that. We come to something similar, but using very different measurements or something like that. The question is, okay, can we use that to evaluate yours? In which is better, right? And it creates a lot of debate, right? So, and it's very hard to generalize. But the counterpoint is, we're not trying to generalize. Who says we're trying to generalize, right? That's the counter argument. So some people who do case studies say, we're not trying to generalize. We don't want to generalize, right? We want to provide contextual solutions, right? But obviously the debate is going on. Some people say, no, we need to generalize. Why are you doing research and talking about, why are you giving us this presentation? I don't care about the hospitals, right? So there is a debate there. This is a key factor, that lack of rigor, right? This doesn't mean case studies are not rigorous, right? But it means that it gives room for people to take it easy, right? And this has been, there's a lot of meta-analysis, which means looking at a lot of studies and then averaging them out to see what kind of effects are there. And they found that there are high quality, like Harvard one, the high quality case studies, but there's a lot that have problems in their transcribing. For example, when they do interviews and things like that, or how they generalize, right? There was one that talked about or the way they draw causation, which means like, oh, this caused that kind of thing. I remember once there was, can't remember exactly what it was, but they found that, so there was one thing that says, eating nuts, right, make you lose weight, right? And there's a statistical angle, but it was also, then they did a case study somewhere, and they said, yeah, everyone who eats nuts is losing weight. And it was a big presentation, everyone was giving, if you eat nuts, you're going to lose weight, right? But when they actually looked at it, it was basically everyone who works out likes to eat nuts, right? It's not because they were eating nuts they're losing weight. It's because they go to gym, they like to eat nuts, right? And so if you come and tell me that, oh, you should eat 10 nuts a day to lose weight, it's bullshit, right? So we need to make sure that the rigor that we use in doing a case study is as equivalent to any other research method we're doing, right? And that's one critique that we get a lot when it comes to case studies, right? And sometimes people call it too long, right? So mainly because it produces a lot of documentation, and if you don't have systems to evaluate when to stop, what's the first milestone, what's the second milestone, you can write documents like the Bible. It's going to go on forever, right? And that's a genuine criticism, right? I know it sounds funny, but it's a genuine criticism. There are case studies who have been bogged down in documentation, as we've seen in documentation where the analysis goes back and forth, and after a point, people just say, let's move on. Exactly, like the Bible. Yes, I'm just kidding. Let's move on. They say, right? So, lack of rigor, the problems with generalizability, and being too long are some of the disadvantages people talk about, right? And these debates, these are not. You cannot just say, oh, that's just a debate, but let's forget it. You have to take this into account. At least when you're writing a paper, you need to talk about this. What was your structure for your rigor? What were the cutoff points for your research, right? What are the implications for research? What are the implications for managers or the organization? That's the main thing. The organization you're working with. You need to touch on those points, right? Let's talk about case studies in practice, right? This is my last slide really. I think I've bored you with all the theory. So over the past 15 years, case study approaches have evolved a lot, right? People have been coming up with ways in how to make case studies better, right? Harvard is a good example, and they're really good at doing it. But there are a few other examples that we can find out as well. But at the same time, there are some institutions who really don't focus on case studies. Without naming a few, there are some prominent organizations who have problems with case studies due to various misunderstandings, etc. Right? And sometimes it comes down to the autonomy of the individual researcher who's doing it to select what they want to do. So it has been systematized. There are more and more methods of doing case studies. Right? Systems are improving. Right? That's good to know. And you guys are at a time where you have so many options of doing research. You know, I myself, my area is mainly quantitative, but I do a lot of simulations. Even though I'm doing business, I do a lot of programming, right? Computer stuff, and I'll have little, people running around and things like that, which people couldn't have done a few years ago, 6-7 years ago, right? And also, when you do a case study, you need to understand how do you achieve granularity, or how do you achieve the point of information where you can do some analysis, right? How do you say, okay, this is enough information, right? What's your demarcation, right? If you say, I just want to stop here, I'll come and say, why stop there? Let's do another week, right? Or someone comes and says, why did you do last week? We should have stopped the week before, right? So we need to have a way to adequately gauge where we need to stop, right? So some people use a technique called triangulation, right? Which is basically not only for that, to validate what you ask for. So I ask you a question from the hospice. Let's say you work for the hospice, and you tell me what the hospice does. I come to you and ask you the question in a slightly different way, right? So you give me a similar answer, then I take both your answers and compare them. I triangulate your information, right? Because you might hate the hospice and you're thinking of leaving next week, right? And he might tell me information that's completely, it's very hard to validate that. So triangulation is another technique that people use to achieve this kind of granularity. It automatically increases the richness of the information, because your opinion, I can come to a pinpointed argument, right? And finally, there are a number of ways of performing case studies, right? Each has its own merits, right? We can have debates about this day in and day out. But what we are going to do today is we're going to look at how to do a basic case study, right? Starting from abstract, starting from introduction, right? How do you write the basics? Essentially, how to fill a document to start, right? So, because in case study research, as with most other methods, you start with a very basic framework, right? They call it KISS. Keep it simple, silly, right? KISS. You start with a basic approach, right? Then you develop the way you do it into more complex approaches, right? That's the same with case study. That's the same with our simulation study, empirical studies, whatever study you talk about, most probably. So that's what we are going to do next. We're going to look at, my colleague here, Alex, will come up and tell you how we put what Julie said, what I said, into practice. Just to give an idea of how you start your work and how to go ahead with a case study. Excellent. Alex, thank you very much.